Welcome, guys, to our first and last workshop of the semester. I'm happy that we are here with Yola and Rosy Belisario, and we're going to do a workshop about how to tell a compelling story. And thank you guys for coming. It's up to you now. You feel free to start whenever you like.
Thank you. So let me share the screen and let me know, guys, when you can see it.
Yes.
Yep,
Yep, it's up.
perfect. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, guys, for joining. As soon as Eduardo told me about about the workshop topic about telling a compelling story, we got so excited because this is just so crucial and we see it on our day-to-day in working in assurance. There are just so many things that go behind telling a story and presenting a dashboard, presenting a presentation, a visualization, just so many things. And if you know us, here in the Coding Sisters, we are gonna start with introductions in a few. We are very big on, hey, the story that you tell always needs to have a seal that represents you. And today, the idea is that we're gonna help you, give you some tips that we have gathered in our professional lives, and also some things that I saw on the last competition in Deraton the last year that I was a judge. So a few things that I noticed that are definitely not missed. And Rosie, she has an amazing background and everything that it's with visualization and data. So that's why the agenda for today, we try to keep it very brief because we plan at the end to have some Q&A session with you guys in any questions related not only to the Datathon, but also about what we do in anything that is related to our fields. We're going to talk about the elements of a story. I'm not going to talk a lot about that right now because it has an amazing analogy behind. And then we're going to map it to how to jump to data presentation. How is that you connect the two different topics to tell a compelling story. And then we're going to give you a checklist for the time that you have to present, that you have to introduce a dashboard or visualization, and you can be, okay, these are the things that I cannot miss, and you can go one by one and just make sure that you don't miss in any of these topics. So I think that only one person here besides Eduardo follows us on Instagram. So just let's introduce ourselves. My name is Yola.
My name is Rosie.
And we go by the Coding Sisters. We created an Instagram account almost 2 years ago when we were studying. And right now we are FIU alumni. We graduated from the SCIES faculty with bachelor's and master's in computer science. I joined Assurant 2 years ago, and right now I'm a DevOps engineer coach. Basically, I jump from one team to another, teaching them to adapt new technology.
In my case, I graduated last year, both my bachelor's and my master's. I have a strong background in data. My very first job was as a data analyst when I was in my junior year. And since then, I just kept scaling for the same data. And now I'm working as a DevOps engineer, IT resident DevOps engineer. And yeah, we're super excited to be here with you guys. We believe that data is not just what it is, but it's also what you tell it is. We believe that great stories happen to those that know how to tell them. And we want to go over all those details with you.
Yeah. So something that we do very often in the Coding Sisters is to take what's going on, take the topic, or take whatever it is that we want to talk and connect it to something that most of the audience know. And we always talk about how important are the basics, knowing the fundamentals, and knowing how to connect what we learn in school with the activities that we are nowadays doing. So that's why we always say that most of the time, the solution to the problem it's on the basics, on the concepts that we got taught at the beginning of our bachelor's, at the beginning of our careers, even in elementary school as well. And that's why we want to help you go back and remember what we got taught in 5th grade.
Okay, so whenever we came with the idea of this workshop, we were not sure how to actually do it because we had a couple of ideas going around. We wanted to bring an example to you guys and to tell you, like, just go over the things that we have done, the times that we did a presentation, we had to dig into the analysis of a data, etc. but we didn't want it to be too specific, because sometimes when you receive an example, you try so hard to follow that example that you forget to have your own personal touch. So we decided to go back to 5th grade. So when we were in 5th grade, probably a teacher came to you and he was like, okay, well, today we're gonna write a story. And the first thing that she told you was, or he told you, was the elements of a story. And this is something so generic that you can actually use it now. And it's awesome that it's awesome whenever you try to do analogies, because they stay easy in your head, and they are things that you just have been using all the time, but you just, if you do it in a more complicated way, it's probably not going to stick with you. So that's why we decided to go back to 5th grade. So if a 5th grade child knows how to go through these topics, you guys, you can do it as well. So the first element of a story, when we were in 5th grade, they told you that it was the setting. The setting is where and when a story takes place. In this case, in this compelling story that you want to tell with your data, the setting will be your methodology. You have to explain where the data comes from. It's so important to explain the origin of the data. How was the data before you start working with it? From where it's coming, what type of data was having. It was raw data, it was which type of SQL, it was a SQL database, or it was maybe a non-relational database. They gave you the relationships, they didn't give you the relationship, you had to take the relationships. All those things will help you to create the setting. Why do you need this? Once, it's gonna give you a more clear perspective, or what is the situation that you're working on. And second, it's gonna help you to build trust. Whenever you're presenting something, if we have to remember that when we're working with data, sometimes the numbers are not the ones that people want to see. And that's something that you guys is gonna happen all the time. You can have a wonderful presentation, the most beautiful report ever seen, on the most beautiful dashboard ever created. But if the numbers are not good, people are gonna doubt. They are not gonna trust in what you're saying, because they don't want to see those results. So when you go and the first thing that you say is, hey, this data is coming from here, I took this period of time, I took this data over here, it was collected in this manner, you are earning their trust. You're saying, hey, what I'm telling you, the results that I got, they're coming from a source that is actually verified. So it's something super important for whenever you're gonna go through a presentation or a reporting, to always talk about the methodology that you have within your data.
Something that here we also have to remember is just think about when you're watching a video. Think when you are seeing the news and people come and tell you, hey, this survey was gathered about women that go into technology. And then they tell you, in order to get this data, we interview X amount of women from age to age that are from this background. And when they're doing that, they are not just doing blah, 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 blah. What they are doing is giving you, hey, I'm going to talk to you about women. And actually the people that we interview were women. Let's change the setting to, hey, I'm gonna give you data that were collected from your customers in America, but actually the data that you have, it's collected from the customers that live in a specific state of America. So that's why it's so important to explain the methodology, where the data comes from, how you got it, what's the background, and also all the time explaining before starting the presentation, because again, it's gonna help you build the trust with the audience that this data is legit.
And I want you to think right now about, because again, we're using this analogy of a story. If we go to Disney a long time ago, in a really far kingdom, right? But even like in regular movies, sometimes they're in California, year 2021, year 1919, like it depending of this origin is that you're gonna set the flow of your presentation.
And also, this is something that most likely you can learn by heart. It's something that it's not gonna, that most likely you're not gonna get questions about that specifically in terms of doubting, because that's the data that you have, that's how you got it. And it's also gonna help you to be more calm when you're presenting, because it's something that's a fact. You're not You did not do the query, you didn't do the visualization, you didn't do the graph. It's a fact. The data was given to you and you did some things to it. And that's going to help you that when you are presenting to feel more calm, because you know that you are starting with something that you know.
So now moving forward to the second element of our story, it's characters. So again, in 5th grade, your teacher told you, you need to have some characters, right? So the characters are the beings of the story. In our case, our characters are our metrics. It doesn't make sense if you have a reporting or a dashboard or a presentation and you're talking about data and the metrics that you are using, they don't add any type of value. For example, if we are talking about the performance of a algorithm, and then you start talking about the percentage of the ethnicity of the developers that did that algorithm. It's like, this doesn't make sense. Yeah, it's cool. Maybe the half of the people that created the algorithm, they are not from USA, but maybe they are from India. But that doesn't help you to measure the performance. So your characters need to be the metrics, and they have to have a value. Whenever you're going into the data and you're selecting what type of metrics you're gonna present, you have to think about, is this adding value? Is this actually telling me something about the data? And you have to present the metric. For example, if I start telling you that, oh yeah, this is, I don't know, for example, the perimeter of this circle, and you don't know the formula of a perimeter, probably something's gonna be like, what that perimeter is. You have to present your characters, and that's what you do in a story. You tell about in a Disney movie, you tell about the prince, or you tell about Cinderella, that she didn't have her parents and she was living with her stepmothers. So those type of things and the metrics, you need to tell that. You need to tell how it is that you are getting that result, which is the query that you're using, or the calculations that you're using, given the names, and also explaining what is the definition. We have to remember also that even though that we try to be really universal in that tech data world, sometimes we are not. Sometimes what you think it is a definition, or it's a name for an acronym, or like a couple of letters, maybe it's not the same, or it doesn't have the same meaning for something else, for someone else. And again, this helps you to build your trust. Like, people are trusting in you, and you are also taking advantage of future questions. You don't want at the end of the presentation being like, I receive a question like, hey, I don't understand that metric. Like, what does that mean? You just spent 15 minutes talking and didn't know what you were counting. So you want to be a step ahead of that, because you know those are questions that you're gonna receive. So it looks good on you if you just go one step ahead and it's like, I'm gonna talk about these metrics, and this metrics have this meaning.
Yeah, and actually something that I forgot to mention is that the order that we chose, it's actually very important, because you have to present the you have to present the data, then present the characters, and then the next part of the elements, which is the conflict. And the conflict is the challenge, the question that you are trying to answer. So again, let's go back to the story. I come and I'm like, hey, Eduardo, you know what happened to Bianca? Bianca got this, and that with Camila and then George. And you're going to be like, who the heck are those people? Like, why do I care about what happened to them? The same thing with the order, with having the data, the methodology, the data, and then the challenge. What is the question that you are trying to answer? What is the challenge? What is that you are trying to transmit? A dashboard, a visualization always needs to have a purpose, always needs to deliver value and tell you an insight on what's the analysis that you perform to the data. It's extremely important that when you start telling your story, you tell after the characters, hey, why is that we are on this call? Why is that we are on this presentation? Why is that we are in this competition? Why is that we are analyzing and taking the time to understand this data? And that's also going to help you to, one, not only make the set to the other things that you're going to explain, but at the same time, it's going to tell the audience why they need to hear you. If you're presenting to a CEO and you go and present something that they don't care about, most likely you're just going to spend 30 to 40 minutes just talking and nobody's going to hear you. But if you go and you be like, hey, This dashboard is going to show us how we can increase our sales. It's going to show you how can we go down in our expenses. It's going to show you how we can be more efficient. You have my attention. So that's why it's super important before starting to go into the data, into the visualizations, into hey, this is the dashboard that I created and this tells this story. You need to tell me what is that you're going to tell me and why. I want to know what you're going to tell me. And that takes you to the next element, which is the plot. What happens in the story? The plot is from the beginning to the end. And here's when we introduce the visualizations and then the conclusions. It's gonna tell me, okay, I know where the data comes from. I know what are the characters. I know what's the conflict. And the visualization is gonna tell me a story on how I'm gonna understand what's the challenge. And at the end, always needs to have a conclusion. You don't want to close a presentation just by saying, hey, this is what I got. I don't have a solution. I don't have an insight. Conclusion is always what's your insight about the problem, what's your insight about the data.
So taking a step back to conflict, you have to remember that data can be overwhelming. I don't know the data ton that you guys are doing right now, but real life data is messy. It's not perfect. You think that the more data you have is better, and sometimes it's actually the opposite. So that's why that's the reason of what you need to know, what type of answers you need, what type of questions you want to answer, because you can become crazy. You maybe at some point you are just writing queries, writing scripts in Python, just making visualizations, throwing up characters there, metrics there, and you don't know what you're doing. You're just doing it for the sake of just putting together a plot. That is what happened in the story, that in our case is the visualization. You want to make sure that when you have element number 1, number 2, number 3, is because you have a clear expectation of what it should like, and then you're just gonna put everything together. You're gonna come here and you're gonna say like, hey, this is what I found. It's so funny because when I started working as a data science analyst, my first couple of dashboards and reports, they were super bad. I'm not gonna lie.
They actually were.
They were
I remember
bad.
them.
They were really bad. And I remember that every time that what I did is when they asked me for a report or for a dashboard, I just put everything together and then I just send it through an email. And the first day when I did that, the CEO of the company came and he was like, hey, next time, be sure that you tell me what you find. And I was like, yeah, that's true. Like it doesn't matter if I have a wonderful, beautiful dashboard report if I'm not able to give you a conclusion. Of course, the visualization matters. That's gonna help you to support your point. That's gonna give a visual experience to the user, but you have to come up with their conclusions. You have to understand what you're doing, and that's awesome when you do that in the story. And again, that's why I love this analogy, that we're telling a story, and go back whenever you're reading a book, when you're watching a movie. You want to give the audience the path, the journey that you had. I did this, I had this setting for this character. I select these metrics because they are going to show us this value. The conflict that we have right now at this point, we want all this, we have all these questions that we want to answer. And maybe when we were doing that, you were doing everything, all these things, maybe you find more questions and things that are more interested, and you have to add those there. And when you are doing the plot, that you're going through your visualization, through your conclusion, you want to take the person with you. You have to take on the route with you. Like, what I did to get to this point was that I decided to group this data for these patterns that I found here, and then I actually found this other table that had this data, and I recognized that it was a relationship within this two, and then I decided to do this and this. When you take that person with your route, first, again, it's going to help you to avoid a lot of questions, because these are questions that are going to come, right? They're going to ask you, like, how do you get to here? If you show them a really like ugly number, the first thing they're going to tell you, are you sure that your formula is good? Are you sure that you didn't add something that you weren't supposed to add? So if you take them in this journey with you, within your visualizations to your conclusions, you're going to earn, again, their trust, which is super important for a data analyst. And I'm gonna do a big parenthesis here. You guys, the trust that you inspire to other people, it's crucial in data, because if you lose that, they are not gonna read your reports. They don't want to see your dashboards. They don't want to go to your presentations. They are always gonna say, you know what Kevin, when Nicolas and Juan and Eduardo, they always are putting together dashboards that seem really cool, but their data is always wrong. So you don't want to lose that. You want to have that professionalism when you are doing that, and you, before sending something, it's much better that you say, hey, you know what, this report that it was for today, I prefer to send you this tomorrow because I have to validate the data, that going on out just putting something together for the sake of doing a report and then not having a story with all the elements. And then a little bit of what I was talking, you need a theme, of course, right? Now you already have the plot, you already know the conflict, the characters, the setting, and you need to know it's gonna be a fairy tale story, it's gonna be maybe a conspiracy story. You need to know what is the story about. In our case, our theme is gonna be our audience. Who are you telling the story to? And I just told you, take the people with you in your journey, but be mindful with this. If you're gonna talk about joins and aggregations within a query and things that you are doing within a relational or non-relational database, be sure that your audience understands this, because maybe they don't care. Maybe they don't care about that part. Maybe they care about something else. So be mindful of the things that you're saying, because sometimes you start talking and they don't understand. Try to look for analogies. That's why whenever Joel and I were doing this, even though that we always assume that the people that are listening to us, they have a bit of background in technology, we always try to take analogies. We always try to make it as simple as possible. Remember what we said at the beginning. Most of the time, the solution to the most complex issues or problems lies in the basic concepts. So you have to take this into consideration. If you're presenting this to, I don't know, a manager in data, you have to expect that there's gonna be a lot of feedback, candid feedback. But if you're presenting this for maybe just to talk just for a technology or a developer, and you are trying to make them understand the amount of cost that they are consuming every day, maybe you have to just take a step back. Like, they are going to understand the revenue, they are going to understand like the cost of the resources. They're actually going to being able to understand that they're expending a lot of money. Maybe no, maybe they just speak on terms of technology, and you have to try to tell them the story in a way that they are going to be able to understand.
And going back to the data tone that you guys have, eventually you're going to be able to see who are going to be the sponsors. You're going to be able to see who are those companies, and try to think about analogies that align with those companies. Because let's be honest, on that competition, you're also showcasing yourself. You want jobs, you want to graduate with an offer letter. And in that way, when you are doing that, when you are taking the analogy with these companies and you are able to make that connection, it tells them something, that you care, that you really want them to understand and to see the value and the amount of work and time that you put behind putting everything together. Who are you telling the story to? It's not only what it's their background or their position, but it's also about what do you think that they want to know. As Rosie was mentioning, let's go back to the developer example. I'm a developer. I don't want to know about the cost. Like, I really don't care about that. And then Rosie comes, yeah, you need the cost, because once you know the cost, you may be able to choose a server that is more efficient, that has more capacity, that is going to help your application to run faster. So always try to touch on that bottom that is going to help them understand and connect with the story that you're telling. The best stories and the ones that you pay the most attention to are the ones that you for sure know that there is something for you that can benefit you, your company, or the product that you are delivering. So that's why it's extremely important, not only for the data tone, but in the future, always do your research on who you're telling the story to, who is going to be on that meeting, what's their background, how much time they have working on the company, what do they care about. And something that happens a lot in the company on Assurant is that when we bring a data analyst and we gave them the data and, hey, tell us a story about this, it's because most likely we are looking for something. We are looking specifically for either a problem, a solution, and you guys need to be able to know, okay, what's the background? Why is that I'm doing this dashboard? Like, what's the purpose? What's the value? We always talk about how technology for the sake of technology doesn't make sense. A dashboard for the sake of creating a dashboard doesn't make sense. It's only a waste of time. When you're telling the story, you need to let the people know what it's inside for them. What is it they're gonna learn, and why is that they need to put their attention to you, and more when you are doing this virtually. Because when you are in person, you're able to do face contact, you're able to ask questions, to move around the room. When you're in Zoom, half of the people are not going to have their camera on. You're not going to be able to do eye contact. You're not going to be able to do that interaction and connection. And that's why it's extremely important that you tell a companion story that is cohesive, but at the same time that it can relate to.
And our last element will be the third person narrator. Is you. Of course, you are a big part of the story that you are telling. A third person narrator is the all knowing. It's the one that knows everything that is happening, and for sure you have to know what is happening. I always going to remember my first day in a physics lab. I went there and we were trying to measure the mass of a couple of different things, and they gave me something that it was super small, and I started doing all my things with the mass and all my thingies with the fixed lab that I don't remember right now the names, but at the end I'm talking to a professor about my findings, and something that it was like this big, it was super small and it was super light in weight. My calculator said that it was 8 kilograms. And he was like, "You're not gonna give me this. Like, just go back." And he was like, "You don't, like, Rosie, this is wrong." And I was like, "No, professor, but this is what this told me." And at the same time, I also was trying to get the gravity. And I don't know if you guys know, but the gravity in the Earth, it's about like 9.8. And then I was getting something like 20. And he was like, "This doesn't make sense."
Use common sense.
Use common sense. If you know that what you're having or you're receiving doesn't make sense, please don't send that. Please don't say it. I prefer for you, as a judges, we're gonna prefer if you tell us like, "Oh, I wasn't able to determine that, and I decided just to leave that up for before, or I decided not to take that into consideration," over just giving you a conclusion that it was wrong.
Actually, saying the word undetermined is completely fine. I'd rather you to tell me the result for this calculation is undetermined, but I brought you something else. So we don't want to go empty-handed, right? But if for X reason you were not able to find something in specific, then you're going to be undetermined. The data didn't tell me enough. I need more. That's totally fine. Actually, sometimes you're going to find out that you need more data, that you need more things in order to be able to deliver a good story. And that's what the companies want. Someone that can think and that can be like, "Hey, what you gave me, it's not enough if you want a good report." And that's why we did that analogy. Hopefully you guys can remember that when the time that you present and you can tell that companion story. We also told you in the agenda that we have a checklist. Some things that I noticed on the Datathon last year, and some things that Rosie noticed on her last job, that were always things that were there that, hey, we cannot miss. You are the author. Of course, your dashboard, your presentation needs to have your seal, right? It needs to have your style. But there are some things that are standards that you cannot miss. And that's why we create this checklist list for you. There are a few things as simple as color. If you're gonna use red, please, that number needs to be bad. Do not put red because it's your favorite color and it's something actually good.
I learned this in the bad way. So please just be sure that you comment to the checklist.
Not use your favorite colors. Just use what makes sense. It doesn't need to be clean to the eye. If it's too crowded, put another visualization. Put another slide. If it has too much information, by the time that you are speaking, I'm not gonna be listening to you. I'm just gonna be trying to figure out what's going on the screen. And again, you're only doing this virtually, so you gotta have good information, but not that much. Also, the metrics must be consistent across all the file. If I right now I'm talking about firewall automation, and that's the name that I use to that metric, and then 3 slides later, I use only automation, that is a space for confusion. When you present the metrics, use the same name, even the capital letters, even the colors. If you are using white, well, don't use white because that's going to be hard to see. But if you use purple to show a specific metric, make sure that across all the visualizations, you're using the same color for that specific metric, because that's going to help the reader understand, oh, on that one, it meant the weather. On this one, it must mean the same. The design should be professional, because of course you want to have that trust, but at the same time be able that you can also add your own style. If you see our presentations, they have a lot of white, pink, purple, because those are our colors, but at the same time we try to make it in a way to show you that, hey, we are professionals and that we are here with true information. The color and font needs to have cohesion. Do not use a bunch of fonts. Do not use a bunch of colors. Try just to stick to 3 or 4 colors and only 1 or maybe 2 fonts, maybe one for the titles and another one for the legend, such that it's not hard to the eye when you're changing from one slide to the other. The other thing is that every visualization must answer a question. And when you're explaining that visualization, make sure that you're saying what is that it is answering. The organization matters. Please do not just bring some things that do not make sense and it's like a puzzle. It needs to look clean. It needs to, let's use our common sense and be like, hey, does this look pleasant? Is there anything that you want to change? Sometimes with visualization, less is more. And the most organized and the less things crowded, it's going to be easier for your audience to understand. If you're using a logo, maybe an IS logo, an Assurant logo, whichever logo, try to always put it on the same part of the slide. That change and when you're doing the movement, sometimes it can be distracted.
And I know these things on this checklist maybe are trivial and you're like, seriously, girls, like you're talking about this, but believe me, we have seen everything and you don't want to fail. You don't want to lose your credibility just because of these simple things. Mm-hmm. And we're getting to almost the end, and it's the do and do not things that, again, we just want to give you some tips. Do not assume that the audience knows any acronyms or technical terms. I talked about this before. Please explain everything that you're talking about, a metric, an acronym, or a technical term. Just give them that. If you're not able to do it through the presentation, maybe you can give them like a glossary with the names of the things that maybe they can look at, so it's going to be easier for them to understand. Don't force the data into a predetermined narrative of bias. Don't do that, please. Sometimes we want it so badly to do for data to tell us something, for us to reach a specific result, that we force the data. And believe me, sometimes you're able to do it. Sometimes you're gonna be like, oh, don't care, I don't care about this, I don't care about that, and you're just gonna try to avoid stuff, and you're gonna force the data. You don't want to do that. Just read from the bullets. I know this is something that we know since 5th grade probably. If you have a presentation, just read from the bullet points. But again, leaving the videos here because, guys, we want you to we want you to be set for success. And leave the audience with more questions than don't leave the audience with more questions than answers, of course. Like at the end of the presentation, we don't want them to be more confused than they were before. Things that you should do: build an outline. We already give you a pretty generic outline. Of course, when you go into the data, it's something more specific, but to always build your outline, revise based on the audience, everything that you're saying, just that makes sense within the audience that you have. Anticipate for questions. This is amazing. This is something that when you're going through your presentation, if you think that is something that is tricky, that is not as clean as it should be, that's probably something that someone is going to catch, because again, you're presenting this to people that they have years of experience, they have years ahead of you, and if something is tricky for you, probably it's going to be tricky for them as well. So try to anticipate the questions. Support data with visuals. Of course, you have to do that. Keep it simple. Again, sometimes less is more. And practice your story with your peers. If you have someone that can help you, that have a little bit of knowledge on how to talk and how to present, just go with them and get feedback, because most of the time, even in the making process, you need someone that is gonna come with a fresh pair of eyes and gonna explain you what is going on.
yeah, try always to be very critical with your dashboard, with your presentation, with everything, and always try to find, hey, if I change this section, is it gonna add or is it gonna rest value? If I go to this person, is maybe they are very good in grammar because English is your second language, or maybe they are very good with design, or they are better than everything. They don't know a thing about the data or a thing about what you have to do. Those are the people that you wanna go. Take your mom, take your dad, take your sister that has 7 years old and be like, hey, I'm gonna explain some things to you. And be what it's the reaction. Try to use a verbosity that makes sense. Do not try to just brag about these big words that you know in your language or these big concepts that you know how to use. Believe me, people do not care about the things that you do, that you know. They care about what you're saying and the numbers that you're showing. They want simplicity. They want to go to the fact, and something that it's extremely true is the last thing of the do not. They want answers. And if you leave and you give them only questions and not answers, they're not gonna call you again. That's for sure. Been there, have done that. Do not do it. And we are done. Something that we really try to do here is to give you the analogy and to make it simple enough, not only for the data time, but also something that you can use when you enter to the workforce. Something that it's going to help you to not make those mistakes that we made at the beginning and that are really important for you to understand when you are presenting and when you are telling what it is that you did. Anything else that you want to add there?
No, I think that we are good for questions.
Okay. Anything that we mentioned that doesn't make sense in your head? Any questions about anything?
Please feel free to ask in the chat or unmute yourself and just hop and ask the question.
Yep.
We brought our dog to be the icebreaker for you guys.
I almost died, so please ask questions.
It's true. It's not a dark joke. It's true.
Something that I remember also of the last Datathon is that a lot of people went there assuming that we knew what we were doing there. And let me tell you, the day before I was told, hey, tomorrow there is a Datathon, you have to go in representation of sure and you have to judge. I went, I didn't know a thing about the Datathon, about what it was, about anything. And it wasn't until the third group that I was like, oh, so they are presenting this data from Scholastic. They were given some questions, they're gonna answer, and then they're gonna tell me something else. Additionally to these questions, I'm gonna judge them, and then they're gonna go into a competition that is not gonna be here in FIU. So it wasn't until the third group, and it was only 5. So the first 2, they didn't get my vote for anything because I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. In the Datathon, do the same. Just do not assume anything. If you are, if they ask you, hey, what order do you want to go? Be the first one and be the icebreaker and explain. Hey, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for taking the time. Today, we are presenting blah, 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 the questions that we chose, blah, 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 the data that we got, blah, blah, blah. Follow those steps in the order when you are starting to explain the story, because again, it's going to give you trust. It's going to give them trust, and it's going to help you to be more calm. It's going to help you to be confident that, hey, these people know what I'm saying. Yeah. These people clearly understand what is this metrics. These people obviously understand what is that I'm trying to answer. Because believe me, it's not funny to be on the presentation and be like, oh my God, they are only going to understand these visualizations if they understood the last one, didn't understood the last one. And then you're going to enter in a thought process that it's not funny to be in.
Yeah, and even if you have a deck, a PowerPoint presentation, before going through each slide, avoid the, can you go back because I didn't understand this? Like, avoid that, because it makes you feel bad. At least me, like whenever I finish from one slide to the other and there was like, I didn't understand this, like this wasn't clear enough for me, I feel bad. Like my imposter syndrome just kick in, right? Like, oh my God, you're just a failure. Just avoid that by asking the question. It's everything understood here? There is any question from the audience? I'm going too fast. Do I need to just recap what we're saying here. That helps you to gain confidence, that helps you to engage with your audience. And again, you're just saying to imposter syndrome, stay there. I don't need you today.
Every time that you're moving from one step to the other on the elements of a story, do a pause. Did you understand what's the setting? Do you understand the characters? Do you understand the metrics? Do you understand what is the challenge, the questions that we're gonna? So every time that you're moving from slide to slide and visualization to visualization, always make the pause. Did everybody understood?
Mhm.
Do pause. It doesn't matter if it's awkward like right now. You just keep it chill and just keep talking.
For us, it's harder because we are Hispanic, and of course we are loud and we speak really fast. And
Have you noticed?
I don't know if you noticed that actually that when we were presenting, sometimes Jella was like, "You're
Yeah.
going too fast."
So our legs, they're just
Yeah.
they're gonna hurt after this because we're like pushing each other while we're presenting.
And those are simple things, right? Again, maybe all of this is trivial, but you keep forgetting these things until you learn this on the hard way. I did it. I had a lot of embarrassed and a shame situation with the CEO of the previous company that I worked for, and it was fine because I was learning. But if someone is telling you this right out of the bat, just do it. Try to do it. It will help you. It will save you a lot of worrying, a lot of hard work, and it will keep you focused on the main thing that you have to do, that is just deliver an exceptional and amazing presentation.
Be aware of the opportunities that are being given to you. I remember a bunch of people that got hired thanks to this datathon on Assurance last year, and they didn't even know that we were there hiring. So be always aware of the opportunity that you're given. Always try to assume that everybody on that room can be someone important in your life, and always try to put your best foot forward. Always, even if you're talking to one person, even if the Zoom call has 60 people, always do it with the best intention. Try to be clear, pause, and just trust that you did the work. Any questions? We have to put the image again.
I have one. You girl said that you got your first job when you were juniors, right? In FIU?
Yes.
If I'm right? I'm not mistaken. Yeah. How was it? How did you guys get it? Like how hard was it being like not having that much professional experience and going into the job? Like how was it?
You can tell your story and then I tell mine.
Yeah, I'll say that in my case, I rely a lot on my soft skills to fill the gap within my technical skills. Most of the time, you'll be impressed that sometimes people, they prefer to hire someone that doesn't have a lot of experience, but is someone that they want to work with. That hiring someone that knows everything, that has all this experience, but is a jerk, right? You don't want that, because you spend most of your day interacting with these people. Maybe now with coronavirus and remotely, maybe it's less, but again, you spend a lot of your time talking and working with these people. So at least that was for me. It wasn't hard. And maybe I was blessed with that. But I think that it was a lot of, whenever they tell me like, hey, you know how to use this, I was like, no, I don't know. I have done this that is similar, and I'm not afraid to learn. I'm a quick learner. I don't care about training and putting my head into something until I master it. So when they see that you have that fire, when you see that you have that conviction within you, they want you. They want you because even if they are looking for something really specific, that specific is not gonna last forever. Everything is evolving more in these times. So if they see that you're a person that can adapt easily, believe me, that can make up for your technical skills, and the technical skill, you will get it. Half of the day right now, I'm in an entry-level position, and half of my day is just Googling stuff. You know, it's a lie that you know everything for school and you know everything memorized. But I think that what got me to where I am was that my soft skills make up always for that lack of the technical skills.
For me, that my soft skills are good, but I'm not on Rossi's level. The first day was horrible. Like I came home just freaked out, like, oh my God, what is it I'm gonna do? And I did something similar to what Rossi mentioned. Of one, I was always honest. I never lied in an interview. I never lied on my first job saying, hey, I know how to do this or I know how to do that when I didn't have a clue. Honesty is always my best policy. And when you are a junior, when you are an intern, if you be just the same phrase that Rosie used, I don't know how to use that. I remember in a school that I learned something around those lines, but I'm willing to learn. I want to learn from you. Just give me the basics and I'll keep doing it myself. And you'll be surprised that a lot of people in entry-level jobs, they say that they know things and are afraid to ask, and they actually spend more time doing the assignment or doing the project than they had to, only because they were not brave enough to say I don't know. And that's something that we always share on the Coding Sisters, saying I don't know, but I'm willing to learn. I'm passionate. I'm here with the best disposition. I just want you to give me 15 minutes of clarity. Believe me that tells a lot to the team about you, and that's going to help you to have a more clear direction when you're going to do that Googling.
And something else, to just a quick tip: use your networking, please, when you are in school. It was funny today. We spent the whole day in a job fair for a university in Atlanta. Shuran is trying to expand and recruit people over there, and we were showing our LinkedIn's, and the LinkedIn's that we were showing there were VPs, directors, managers, people that they just doing like this, and then you have a job, and people they know were taking notes. I was like, dude, take notes. You're getting the direct contact. Reach out to people. So try to always keep your network. If right now, be smart. If you don't have if you don't have us on LinkedIn, just add us. If you want to find a job, an internship, just hey, reach out to people. It's true that some people are not gonna help you, but most of the people, they want to help you. Most of the people in the industry, they want to recruit talent. They want to help their companies to grow. So networking, please just use that to your advantage.
I think that we answered like a bunch of questions on that. So sorry, we go on the tangents a lot.
Oh, it's fine. Basically, networking is key.
It is.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Something that I wanted to share with you, and hey, amazing news, Eduardo, that you told me that you were already hired. But Assurant right now has 50 positions open for the data department. And when I'm talking about data, I talk data behavior, data engineering, data analytics, and another data that I'm forgetting.
Data analytics and information technology.
Something like that. The best way of obtaining those internships, of course, go to jobs.assurant.com, apply. Most likely you're going to be able to see who is the hiring manager. And if you're not able to see it, just ping someone that you know that maybe works in Assurant and ask who is the hiring manager. You add that person and you send a message. Hey, I actually was in a workshop with Yola and Rosa about storytelling, and they talk about the opportunities that Assurant has. I'm very interested in this position. I already applied. Can I have a one-on-one with you? You will be impressed on how many people, as Rosie mentioned, are willing to help you. They just don't do it because you don't ask.
Yeah, and most of the time in Assurant, we don't ask for experience. We just ask for passion, to be passionate about what you are doing, and of course to have background, like to have the knowledge. But you guys being on this datathon, it's amazing. Like even in these times of the pandemic, that you were able to pull everything together. You all are gonna participate there. I think it's amazing, and that's something that I'm sure the hiring managers are gonna like. So yeah, if you guys are interested, just go again, add us on LinkedIn or maybe through Instagram, try to reach us out, and we will try to redirect you to these people. Again, we want to help you.
You guys, just to make sure, you guys just said that we go to assurant.com, right? And we can find
jobs.assurant.com is actually gonna yeah, Rosie's writing the website there. It's gonna take you to the main page and just search intern. And then jobs, sure, just search intern and you're gonna see a bunch of them. And something else, if you are interested in a specific internship, of course, apply to that one. But if there is other that is maybe not your favorite, but you can also do, apply to all of them, to everything that you think that it's at least a little bit related to your major, because once you join the company, even as an intern, we have something that is called the open door policy. Once you are there, You can have a direct link to VPs, to directors, to managers, and moving from one department to another, it's actually very, very easy, and it's gonna help you to grow your network once you are there.
Thank you.
Dana, you were asking that if the internships are open to new grads. Yes, there are a couple of different ways in how the internships work in a student. Depending on the type of background that you have, experience, etc., what you're looking for, they can accommodate you in maybe the first part of the internship, of the middle part of the internship. For example, in my case, when I entered to a student, I already have a little bit of background, and they accommodate me in the next on the next position on the internship that is a residency position, and some other people they start on intro level. It depends on the hiring manager and the team, but yes, they are open to new grads all the time. We are not we should have call our manager and be like, hey, you have to pay me right now. I'm doing marketing for the company.
We're clocking in these hours.
Yes.
Any other questions, guys? How are you guys feeling for the Datathon? You guys feel you're ready?
I'm very excited. This is my first time participating in a Datathon, and I think it's gonna be the best experience to learn how to actually, be in front of decision makers and sell them my story and convince them that my analysis is the best one, kind of.
What I will do, Eduardo, once everything ends, record yourself with the presenting the dashboard and the visualization, and polish it on LinkedIn and be like, hey, I just spent these 2 amazing weeks doing this challenge. I learned a lot, and I want to share my findings, and I want to share my learning with all of you. That really tells a lot about, one, how brave you are, and two, it really, like, we value people that go there and tell their story. And the story doesn't have to be only successful. It can also be like, hey, I would have changed this part, or hey, I think that if I had this background, I could have maybe presented better. So always, we are super big on LinkedIn. If you don't have a LinkedIn, then you are losing time.
I think all the companies are, not just student related. All the companies are big on LinkedIn. Try to be as active as you are in any other social media.
Yeah. Of course, professionally.
Yeah, professionally.
Not me like a TikTok guy. Any other questions? Anything else that you guys want to know?
Yeah, by any chance, do you know how long we'll have to present during the Datathon?
So
That's go ahead. Sorry, Jola.
It's fine. Maybe change this year.
Yeah. If you go to I'll put the link right now. So if you go to that link, the link site over there, you'll see that first there's going to be a submission that you need to do, which is the visualization, and with a little bit of a story that you have to write it down. Once you get classified, if you submit that thing and you get selected for the finals, then you have to present and visualize and present your visualization basically in front of a panel of judges. So basically that will be around 15 minutes. The last time it was about 15 minutes. Yep, that's it. So but the first round is showing visualization and writing down your story in a paper. So you have to be like Shakespeare, I guess.
Any other questions? Very good to call it a day. Anything else? Maybe not something specific to data, but anything that caught your attention about what we just mentioned, our background, what we do right now? No. Okay, so shameless plug here. Follow us on Instagram, the Coding Sisters. And we always say this because we share a bunch of openings that we see online, not only for Asturian, but also from other companies. So we're always sharing, and also at the same time just giving advice on what's the best way to approach a problem, maybe approach a challenge when you're new in the industry. And we would love to connect you with you guys there, and also on LinkedIn. Just Jola Belisario and Rosy Belisario, and you should be able to find us.
Thank you again, Jola, Rosy, for coming. It is a pleasure again to have you at LRS. And this was an amazing time. I learned a lot, and I believe that all the other members are staying here in the entire workshop really learn a lot as well. Hopefully, we're gonna do an amazing compelling story in the competition.
Wish you the best, guys. And if you have any questions or something,
Even
just-
if you want to take a look to visualizations or
Yes.
anything.
if you want to
just let us
practice
know.
with us, let us know. If we are able and our jobs give us that flexibility, we will do it. And we wish you the best. Seriously, we're rooting for you. You guys are gonna do amazing. Just
Bye. Have a good one.
Bye
Thank you for
bye.
having us. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.